Welcome to my channel. My name is Omolola. Welcome to Sue with Lola. In this channel, we'll be learning how to draft different styles. But today, I want to talk about pattern drafting and freehand. There are a lot of controversy between which one is better between pattern drafting and freehand. I've jotted some points down that will help us to understand the difference between pattern drafting and freehand. Let's continue. What is pattern drafting? Pattern drafting is the art of designing clothing on a pattern. You draft a pattern first before transferring it into the clothes. So you draft on pattern before you transfer into the clothes. But it's more than that. Some people, they do freehand on pattern and call it pattern drafting. No, pattern drafting is more than just drafting on pattern. There are some rules, there are some principles that you need to follow to draft your pattern. Then after drafting your pattern, then you transfer it to your clothes. It has its own advantages and disadvantages. Now let's talk about the advantages of pattern drafting. Number one, it makes you to interpret designs. Yes, there are some styles that are difficult, or maybe you are just trying it for the first time. By the time you draft it on pattern, then you'll be able to interpret the design. Okay, this is how it is done, this is how it is done, this is how it is done. Then before you now transfer it to your fabric. So it helps you to interpret this. It helps you to manipulate style, that is to change the style for complicated style. Yes, you can use your simple basic bodies to manipulate your pattern to a complicated styles. Yes, you can use it to manipulate your styles. It minimize or reduce the chances of making mistakes. Yes, it minimize the chances of making mistakes, because everything you want to cut out, you must have seen it on the pattern. You must have seen the mistake and you must have corrected it on the pattern before you transfer it to your fabric. So it's really reduce the chances of you making mistakes. Number four, it enable you to obtain a good fit. Yes, because you use the accurate body measurements of your client or yourself to draft it. There is no guesswork. You are not guessing anything. You use the accurate measurement to achieve your pattern, whereby giving you a good fit. Number six, a pattern prepared on thick paper can be preserved and reused again. Yes, if you draft your pattern on a thick pattern paper, you can use it over and over and over again, especially for those that do ready to wear. When you have a thick pattern, they can continue to reproduce or that particular styles with a pattern. It is quicker and easier. Yes, it's very quick and easy. You know how to do it. It's very quick and very easy to draft. Number eight, it reduce wastage of fabric. It's economical. Yes, it reduce the wastage of fabric, because the fabric must have wasted. It's economical. Yes, because there are some styles, maybe let's give an instance, like you want to cut a gown and it has three colors. So if you draft your pattern, then you now put the three color, maybe red, blue and black. Then number one, number two, number three. Then you now use each pattern to cut blue, the other one to cut red, and the other one to cut black. Instead of you drafting directly on the clothes and sharing the clothes into three and use it to cut another cloth, that is wastage of fabric. So this pattern helps you to minimize wastage of fabric. Let's now talk about the disadvantages of pattern drafting. Number one, it can only be useful to one person. The owner rarely use it more than one unless it is thick. Yes, pattern drafting is not something that you use for different people, because we have different body shape and sizes. So that means you have to keep drafting pattern for each body shapes and sizes. It's not something that you can use over and over again, especially if you are, if you have different clients, if you have different working clients to sew for. So you have to keep drafting pattern for each particular person. So it's not you can't use pattern for one person, especially if the pattern paper is not thick. You can't use more than once. You can't use more than once. Number two, pattern drafting requires special skills. Yes, you have to be intelligent. You have to think outside the box. You have to know how to read and write. Somebody that doesn't know how to read and write cannot cannot draft pattern, because how will you explain what is written on how to draft a particular pattern that is given to you? So it requires what? Special skills. I do not say you have to go to the university, but at least you have to know how to read and write. Because if you don't know how to read and write, there's no way you will be able to interpret pattern. Number three, it is time consuming, because it takes a lot of time to draft the pattern. Yes, pattern is time consuming because you have to draft, you have to do a lot of things on it. You have to, unlike freehand that you have done everything on the clothes, but in pattern drafting you have to draft and draft before you now start transferring it to your clothes. It wastes a lot of times, and if you are the type that is not patient, you will not be able to use pattern drafting. Number four, it is difficult to prepare. Yes, especially if you don't have the knowledge of pattern drafting, or you are just learning pattern drafting. You might see it as pattern drafting is difficult because you are new to it. And you don't understand it before, or you don't used to use it before. So when you start using it, you think it's difficult, so you find it difficult to adapt. But once you've learned it, you know that it's good, but it's difficult to prepare at a start. So now we've talked about pattern drafting, what pattern drafting is, the advantages of pattern drafting and the disadvantages of pattern drafting. Now we want to talk about freehand, the advantages and the disadvantages. Freehand is the process of drafting directly on the clothes. It is the process of drafting directly on the clothes with the use of chalk or any other thing you want to use, but it means drafting directly on the clothes. Then we have the advantages. So number one is very fast, very fast, easy and fast. You don't need to follow some principles, you don't need to follow some rules guiding pattern drafting. This one, you just use your free hand and just draft on the plate. So it's very quick and easy to draft. Number two, it's cheap, because you don't need to buy pattern papers. You don't need to buy pattern paper. You don't need to buy all those tools that pattern drafter use. Just use your cloth and your chalk and your tape and you are good to go. So it's very cheap, it's not expensive. You don't have to keep buying papers, buying patterns and everything. So it's very cheap. Number three, it is less mathematical in nature. Yes, because you don't have to start calculating, oh, I have to calculate this one, I have to calculate the length, the width. You don't need all those things. You need a little calculation, but not like in pattern drafting that you have to do a lot of calculation to arrive at the particular figures, something like that. But this one is less mathematical in nature. Yes. Number four, it's easy to understand. Yes, pattern drafting is easy to understand. does not require a long process, so it's very easy to understand. Number six, number five, sorry, it does not require special skills. Yes, people that don't know how to read and write can actually use freehand to cut. Yes, I know someone that does not go to school, does not know how to read, and she's a fashion designer. So she was able to use freehand to cut and sew for her customers. So it does not really require special skills, but it has its own disadvantages too. It has its own disadvantages. Number one, you will be limited to a particular styles. Yes, when you are using pattern drafting, you will not be able to explore. Fashion is deep. Fashion designing is deep. When you know how to draft pattern, you'll be able to explore designs, create your own designs and everything. But using freehand, you'll be limited. There are some styles that you cannot cut without using pattern drafting. It's not possible. You can't use freehand to cut them. You have to use pattern drafting. So if you know how to use freehand and you don't know pattern, that means you'll be limited to only some particular styles. You will not be able to go beyond that, because pattern drafting is extensive. Fashion is broad. You will not be able to explore your creativity and all that. You'll be limited. Yes, that is one of the disadvantages of using freehand. You'll be limited. Number two, it wastes a lot of fabric. Yes, it wastes a lot, because once you make mistake on the fabric, you can't correct it again. You have to cut another fabric. And the instance I gave the other time, like if you want to cut 3 colors like blue, red and black, if you are using freehand, you have to draft it first, then you have to pieces the fabric, then you now place it on another fabric. It wastes a lot of fabrics. So that's one of the disadvantages of using freehand. Number three, the draft can't be reused. Once you cut it out, you can't use it again to cut another fabric. It can't be reused. No. Number four, it can be tested before sewing. Yes, unlike in pattern drafting that you can still use this calico to test your design on the dress form before you transfer it to your clothes. But using freehand, you can't use it, you can't test it before you sew. You just cut and sew directly. Then number six, no instructions on the draft. When you are using pattern drafting, there is no instruction. You can see that a lot of freehanders, they do guesswork. If you ask them, how did you arrive at this particular style, they will tell you that they just guess and they got it. So there is no instructions, unlike pattern that they will explain to you, okay, this is how we arrive at this particular point, or this is how we arrive at this particular style. But in freehand, they will just tell you that it's guesswork, that they just guess. So, or they tell you there is no definite figure, just round it up or just guess and you are going to get it. So those are the disadvantages of pattern drafting. You can see that both has its own advantages and its own disadvantages. So it's very good to know the two. It's very good to know the two, because there are some styles that you don't need pattern drafting to cut, like free gown, maternity gown. All those ones don't need pattern drafting to cut them. You can just use freehand. It's good to have the knowledge of the two, so that any style you want to cut, you know the method you are going to use to cut them. Okay, this is the end of our class for today. In our next video, we are going to learn another new thing. I remain your favorite sis, your favorite fashion tutor, Omolola, Sew with Lola. Please don't forget to like, share, comment on this post. See you in our next class. Bye.